Welcome back. As you all know that I'm still in the recovery process and I have taken upon a new challenge on myself, which is to read books. I do not like reading, but now I have to adapt to it because that is my new challenge. Because this journey is all about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. What topic I'm gonna study, I was unaware. Then I sat myself down, wrote about the things that I find interesting. Out of all those things, what stand out the most was money and how money works, as well as the psychology of money and how to make money and all that. The first book I will be reading would be Psychology of Money by Mr. Morgan Housel, because this book, it does not just talk about money. This book is not a typical advice on money because it does not have stock tips, crypto tips, or budget tips. It is that how we as humans behave when we have money. This book defines that and illustrates that into a very simple format of a 20 chapter, and I have just read and finished the chapter number 1, which goes as no one is crazy, and that chapter by itself has just blew my mind off by the amount of information it has, as well as the amount of key lessons that I have learned from it. So that being said, that brings me down to the lessons that I have learned from this. Takeaway number 1, which I took from the chapter 1, is everyone's decisions with money is different. Mr. Housel puts it as, people do crazy things with money, but no one is crazy. This line itself sets the tone of the book for me. What I think the writer is trying to convey is that financial decisions, no matter how bizarre they are, they make a perfect sense to the person who is making them, because their choices are rooted in their personal history. Think about this for a second. Someone who was born in the Great Depression in America is going to have a very different attitude towards saving than to a person who is born in the 2010 bull market. One person might honor the cash, wants to save all his cash, and the other person, on the other hand, is going to invest all his money in new technology, in computer tech, or even in crypto. Neither of them are wrong, because each of them are a product of a different upbringing. Now that brings me down to the lesson number 2, which is logic against emotion in a financial decision. We all love to think that financial decisions are based on spreadsheets or are made with a perfect logic. But how the writer puts it as is, the way you personally experience money can make a great impact on your behavior than the objective fact ever will. Simple words, what I understood is, it is not about the intelligence. It is about the memory and emotions. Because without us realizing it, we bring our past history into every single decision we make in the future. That sometimes can include trauma or optimism or upbringing, could be either. A person might aggressively invest all his money in the stock market because he has never experienced a market crash in his life. That could be my understanding with experience. My parents grew up with nothing, and now they have provided us with all the necessities of the world. So my father's understanding with money would be very different than to my own. Neither is my dad wrong or nor I am wrong. It is just that we have a different upbringing with money. That brings me down to my lesson number 3, which is your financial worldview is based on the year you are born. Here's something that stuck with me from the book. Every decision people make with money is justified by taking the information they have at the moment and plugging it into their own unique mental model of how the world works. This is why the generational wealth differences are real. Because someone who was born in the late 1960s would have seen double-digit interest rate in America and inflation. But on the other hand, someone born in the 1995 would have seen a 0% interest rate and Bitcoin. The world stayed the same, but the information has changed. And that means they have a different conclusion. Mr. Morgan gives us an example in his book of a person who was born in the 1950s in America, how that he would have lived through as one of the greatest economical expansion in history. And that person may believe that the market is always gonna go up in the long run. But same year, someone born in Japan, they would have seen stagnation, a market crash that Japan still has not yet recovered from. Two different narratives with the same year. Now that brings me down to the lesson number 4. We all are playing a very different game, especially with money. We have to understand this. This one could be one of the most useful lessons in your life itself, not just with money. Be careful who you praise and admire. Be careful who you look down upon. And be very careful when assuming that 90% of your decisions should be mimicked. Wow. People buy meme stocks, or the term we are living in, meme coins, for fun. Other people hold those things for retirement. One person is a day trader who trades for the thrill. Another person is going to do a dollar cost averaging into the ETFs for a very long amount of time. If you are copying someone else's strategies without understanding their goals, you're setting yourself up for a failure. We all are playing a very different game, especially with money. And by understanding this, it can help you to focus on your own goals, your own values, and your own gains. Now that brings me to my final takeaway from the chapter, which is less judgment and more empathy. That is where it goes deep. Come to think of it, the real lesson from this chapter is not about making financial decisions better, but it is to understand that we have to do less judgment and more empathy, and be very kind to yourself as well as others in a financial decision. So the next time when you see somebody blow their entire bonus on a flashy car or a purse, on the other hand, you see somebody saving every single cent that he could, try to be less judgmental and try to ask yourself this question as to why the person is choosing to make that choice and what life experience must have put them in that situation that you can learn from and avoid for improvement. Because remember this, no one's crazy. We all are just working with different information, different expressions, different experience, and different goals. Now that's chapter 1. If this is just the beginning, I'm excited as to what the other part of the book holds, and I can't wait to start the chapter 2 and then hopefully share my insights with you all. And if you have read this chapter and I have missed out on a key line or a key expression or a key lesson, please do tell that to me in my comments.